Imagine this. You're just going about your day when a couple of wannabe cops decide to mess with you. They think they can push you around, act tough, and get away with it. But little do they know, they've picked the wrong person to mess with. What starts as an innocent confrontation quickly escalates, and things take a turn that no one saw coming. These self-appointed heroes are about to learn a harsh lesson about who they're really dealing with. Tensions rise, insults fly, and the situation grows more intense with every passing minute. But just when it seems like the wanted cops might get the upper hand, something happens that they didn't expect. Real law enforcement shows up, and the tables are about to turn. Stay tuned to find out how this wild encounter unfolds and who comes out on top. As the real cops pull up, the wanted officers try to play it cool, acting like they're in control of the situation. But here's where things start to get interesting. The guy they targeted isn't just some random person. He's calm, almost too calm, and there's something about the way he's handling himself that makes you wonder if he knows something they don't. He doesn't yell, doesn't panic. He just waits, watching everything unfold. Meanwhile, the wannabes are getting nervous, their confidence cracking as the real officers step out of their patrol cars. One of them, clearly in charge, starts asking questions. Suddenly, the fake cop story doesn't seem to add up. They stumble over their words, trying to explain what's happening, while the guy they tried to intimidate stays quiet. What is he waiting for? Who is he, really? You can feel the tension building, and it's far from over. As the real officers start piecing things together, the guy finally speaks up, but not to defend himself. Instead, he calmly pulls out his ID and hands it over. The cops take one look at it, and their expressions shift. They glance at each other, then at the wanted cops, who are now visibly sweating. It turns out this isn't just some regular guy. His credentials carry weight, and suddenly the situation takes on a whole new meaning. The wanted cops try to backtrack, mumbling excuses about how they were just trying to help and keep things in order. But it's too late. The real officers aren't buying it. One of them asks a pointed question: "What exactly were you trying to do here?" The wannabes stumble through their explanation, but their story gets shakier with every word. Meanwhile, the guy they targeted just stands there, almost like he's seen this play out before. Who is he, really? And how much trouble are these wanted cops about to be in? The tension is suffocating. The wanted cops know they're in over their heads, but they're too proud to back down. They try to stand tall, but their nerves are starting to show, fidgeting, shifting their weight, avoiding eye contact. The real officers, however, are as calm as ever, their eyes locked on the wannabes, like they're waiting for them to crack. And then, just when it seems like the situation couldn't get any more intense, the guy who'd been so quiet suddenly speaks up again. But this time, his voice is cold, calculated. He gives the real cops a subtle nod, and without saying much more, he steps forward, closer to the wannabes. The look in his eyes is enough to make anyone shiver. There's something almost predatory about the way he moves, as if he's about to strike. The wanted cops glance at each other, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. They're completely out of their depth now, and they know it. The silence is deafening. The real cops are watching, waiting for the right moment to intervene. It's as if everyone's holding their breath, caught between two worlds. One wrong move, and all hell could break loose. But what's the guy really planning? Just as everyone seems frozen in place, one of the real officers' radios crackles to life. A dispatch comes through, mentioning a report of individuals impersonating law enforcement in the area. The real cops exchange knowing looks, their suspicion instantly confirmed. They turn back to the wanted cops, who now look like deer caught in headlights. The situation has officially escalated, and it's not looking good for them. But then the twist no one saw coming happens. The guy they've been messing with smirks, reaching into his pocket again, not for a weapon, but for another badge. This one is different, bigger, more official. It turns out he's not just someone with credentials. He's a high-ranking investigator. The look on the wannabes' faces is priceless. Panic sets in as they realize they haven't just messed with the wrong guy. They've tangled with someone who has the authority to make their lives a lot more complicated. And yet the guy isn't yelling or threatening. He simply steps back and lets the real officers take over, as if he knows the wannabes are already tracked by their own mistakes. But why was he there in the first place? And what's his connection to this case? The stakes couldn't be higher, and the truth is about to unravel in ways no one expects. The real officers step in, firmly separating the wannabe cops from the investigator. The wannabes start pleading, claiming they didn't mean any harm and didn't know who they were dealing with. But it's too late. The investigator calmly informs them that impersonating law enforcement isn't just a bad idea. It's a serious crime. Their excuses fall flat as the real officers begin asking for IDs and questioning their motives. Just when it seems like the story is wrapping up, the investigator drops one final bombshell. It turns out he wasn't there by chance. He'd been investigating reports of fake cops in the area for weeks. These two had unknowingly walked straight into a trap. He smirks again, revealing that he'd been watching them the entire time, waiting for them to slip up. As the wannabes are cuffed and led away, the investigator turns to the real officers, offering a small nod before quietly walking off into the distance. He doesn't need the spotlight. Justice has been served. But as he disappears, you can't help but wonder, how many more like them are still out there, waiting to make this same mistake? As the patrol cars pulled away, sirens fading into the distance, the street grew quiet again. The investigator had vanished just as mysteriously as he'd appeared, leaving the real officers and a few stunned onlookers to process what had just happened. The wanted cops, so confident at first, were now facing the reality of their actions and the legal consequences that came with them. It was a stark reminder that pretending to be something you're not, especially in a position of authority, never ends well. The real officers exchanged a few words, their respect for the investigator evident in their expressions. While it wasn't every day they crossed paths with someone of his rank, they were glad he'd been there to see justice served. As for the investigator, his work wasn't done. Somewhere out there, others might be trying the same dangerous act, and he'd be ready. For now, though, the message was clear. Think twice before you mess with the wrong guy.